welcome to lesson 2 of unit 3. This one is all about slope. Okay, so this one is all about slope. And slope is a measure of the steepness of a line. Slope is the measure of the steepness of a line. The steeper the line, the greater the slope. Slope is also known as the rate of change, which we have calculated before in the past. So we're going to get more practice with that today. So rate of, oh my goodness, just want to spell change a little bit better. There we go. Okay, rate of change. So how fast something is changing per unit of time. Now, slope is the ratio. Again, this should be a little bit of a review in the change in y. The change in the y values over the change in x values. So how much did y change by over how much x changed by? Okay, so that is what slope is. Let's talk about getting slope from a graph. So there's 4 different kinds of slope that we can see from graphs here. This first one is called a positive slope. Okay, when it is pointing upward, as you read it from left to right, if your person is jogging uphill, it is a positive slope. If our person is jogging downhill, our line is pointed down towards the ground as we read it from left to right like a book, then we have what is called a negative slope. So positive pointing up, negative pointing down. Or you can think of it as like if our line is increasing, it's positive. If our line is decreasing, it's negative. You guys did a really great job at determining whether lines were increasing or decreasing yesterday. Now, when we have a flat line, when there is nothing happening, doesn't change, we call this a zero slope. It is a flat line. If you're running on the sidewalk, it has no steepness to it, so we say it is 0. If we have a vertical line, it is undefined, which just kind of means like it doesn't exist. Like it just, you don't take the slope of a vertical line. If you were to like look at a wall, you don't say, oh, that wall is steep. Like you can look at a hill, but it reaches a point where when it's straight up and down, you don't call that steep anymore. It's called an undefined slope when you just fall off of it. Okay, so positive, negative, 0, undefined. Now for graphs, we can find this, again, this should be some big review from physics, by finding our rise, which is our change in y, over our run, which is our change in x. Remember, slope is change in y over change in x. So we can also say this when it comes to graphing as our rise over our run. So rise being how high or how low I move from one point to the next, and then run how far left or right I run. Okay, so let's try this. So the first thing we need to do on a graph is if there isn't 2 clear points written out, we need to find those 2 clear points. So this is an example of how you can find it, okay? Basically, you want to find a point where you have a point in the center of almost like a 4-squared window. Or if you've played the game of Foursquare, it's like right in the center. If your line crosses there, you can make a dot. So if your line does not cross at at the center of your 4 squares, like this one is off to the right, that is not a clear point. So again, I'm looking for one that crosses right in the center of 4 boxes. If you look here at these 4, it's slightly off to the left, so that doesn't work. So I'm going to look for one that kind of meets right here where my 2 lines intersect each other. This one, nope, that's in the center of a box. This one's in the center of a box, like in the middle of the line. That one's kind of off to the left or up a little bit. Here we go. That's a good point here. Let's see. That one's off a little bit, off a little bit, off a little bit. This one here is pointing right to the center, so I'm also going to do that one. Okay. Again, here if I draw my little 4 squares, this one is right in the center, so that one's good. And then same for this one, except you just can't see the 2 squares, but we know that they would be right here, and it's right in the center, so that one also works. Okay, so now we find our rise. So how high up I go or how high down I go. So if I am going down, that means my overall slope will be negative. If I go up, that means my overall slope will be positive. So let me show you how that works. So here, always start with your rise. So now I'm going to draw a line until I get to the same level of my next point. So I'm going to go down, 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 down. Now I'm in line with my next point. So I went down 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. So I'm going to write that as -4. So that is my rise, because that was my change in my y. That was how far down I went. Now I'm going to find how far I run. So now I'll move to the left or the right until I get to my point. I have to move to the right. 1, 2, 3. So that means my run equals 3. And now when we write this, we write it as rise over run. So I'm going to write this as rise, -4, over run, which was 3. And that's my final answer. I can't simplify that. And then again, let's check our sign. I went down here, so I put the 4 as a negative. But remember also, if my line is pointing down towards the ground, that means a negative slope, so my answer should be negative. If you look here, pointing down towards the ground, and my answer was negative. So I know I did that one right. So now let's do this next one. Again, we're going to find 2 clear points, find my rise, find my run, write it as rise over run. All right, so I see a clear point right here. You can see, again, in the center of these 4 boxes. It is crossing right in the center, so that is a point. So I'm going to put a little circle there. And then I see another one right here. So I'm going to put another circle there. Okay, so now from my first point, this one, I'm going to find my rise. So either how high up I go or how high down. And in this case, I have to go up to meet my next point. And I went up 1, 2, 3, 4 boxes. And now I'm going to run to the left or to the right, however to reach my other point. Here I have to run to the right, 1, 2, 3. Again, we write this as rise over run. So how high up I went was 4. Over, I ran to the right, 3. Again, when my line is pointed uphill, if I would be running uphill, it's a positive slope. So let's check our answer. Here, it's going up, and my slope is positive. Okay. There are 3 problems here. 2 of them, the dots are drawn. This one, you have to find your 2 points. If you get to the medium one, go ahead and give it a try. If you don't get to it, no worries. Pause me and work on these next 3. Unpause me when you're finished, or if you need help. Alright, so really quickly, this first one here, we had to go down 1, so -1, and then over 3, so +3, rise over run, -1. Third, this one's pointing down towards the ground, so it should be negative. Next one, we went up 3. We had to find 2 clear points here. You could have used these 2 in the middle. You could have used this one down here, or you could have used this one up here. If you used any of those points, you should have gotten the same answer. We went up 3 boxes, rise of 3, over 1, and again we can simplify that to get 3. And then lastly, for the miles, here we have to go down to get to our next point, so we rise -3, 1, 2, 3 because we went down, run 3, so -3 over 3 equals -1. Again, this one is also pointing down towards the ground, so it makes sense that it's negative. Lastly, for this last one, the medium one, if you did it, because this slope is 4 over 3, I know from this point I can rise 4 and run 3, or you could do it opposite and go down 4 to the left 3. All right. Check your answers, come back, pause me, make sure you have them filled out. Okay, on to the next thing. So slope formula. So if I give you 2 points or 2 ordered pairs or a table, you need to be able to find the slope. How can we do that? So we're going to take our first 2 points and we're going to label them as x1, y1, and x2, y2. So remember, ordered pairs are x comma y, so I'm going to make this x1 and y1 since that's my first ordered pair. And then I'm going to make this one x2 and y2. So I've labeled them, and now I'm going to plug them into the equation. So my equation is y2 minus y1. Ignore this. I'm going to fix that. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So now I can plug these points in. Okay. y2 was 5 minus y1 was 3 over x2 was 4 minus x1 was 2. 5 minus 3 is 2. 4 minus 2 is 2. And then 2 over 2 equals 1. And that's my slope. Okay? Not too shabby, not too shabby. Okay, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Label your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug them in and simplify if you can. All right, I want you to actually move down and try this problem, and then we'll go on to the table. So try this one and then unpause me when you are finished. All right, so first thing you should have done was labeled your points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then plug them in. y2 is 1 minus y1 is 5. x2 is 4 minus x1 is 1, and you get negative 4/3. Check your answer, make sure you have it right. If you don't, go back, pause me, and make sure you have it down. Okay, so now we're going to do the same thing with a table. What if I give you a table? So what you're going to do is you're going to label your first 2 points. So even if I had another point here like 5, 8, or whatever it may be, I want you to just focus on the first 2 given, just to make things easier and narrow it down. So now from here I can say this is x1, y1, and then this one is x2, y2. And then now we can plug them into our equation. So again, it's y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1. So we have y2 is negative 7 minus y1 is negative 2 over x2 is 4 minus x1 is 0. And then now we can do that. This becomes a plus sign because 2 negatives. This gives me negative 5, and then 4 minus 0 is just 4. All right, same exact math, just looking at it in a table. But same first step. Take your first 2 points, label them x1, y1, x2, y2, and then solve. Okay, I want you to try this one now, and then come back and unpause me when you're finished. All right, I know I got a lot of colors going on here. So I just took my formula, we labeled my points, x1, y1, x2, y2, and then we filled them in. I kind of matched them here with the highlighter, so y2 is what we start with, and that was negative 5, minus y1 was negative 1, over x2 is negative 1, minus x1, which was negative 9. Woof. All right, I made a mistake. So negative 1 minus negative 9 ends up being positive 8, and we get negative 1/2 when we simplify that. Okay, I want you to move on to independent practice, do your mastery check, message me when you're done. Have a good day.